where Republic Media Network is extremely poised because its motto is nation first, to take India not only to the several parts of the country which Republic is doing brilliantly well, but even across the globe, and continues to expand the wings of this great network of his. So and one of the things is that, and I believe, since I know him well, that the reason behind his topic, somewhere he says time for transformation, is innately resonating with what even he's thought, the trials and tribulations that the network went through in the past 2-3 years. And I don't think that there is somebody more close to that who's observed it than I do, or that I have done. I have woken up at 7 in the morning. I have come on your channels on Skype. To what I have done, or to what I have, how many times I've come, what I've done. I don't want to talk about it because it's a little inappropriate for me to do that. It's let the people do that. But the thing is that Republic TV has transformed itself into a force, such a force that today Republic TV is associated, as opposed to what the cynics say, sensationalism, I would say credibility. If you want the truth, no holds barred truth, you go switch on the channel for Republic, switch on Republic channel. That is the transformation that it has gone itself from 2017, when you started on May 6th, till today, on say 25th of April 2023, in the past 5.5 years. The way you all have expanded, or just closing down to 6 years now on May 6th now, when you will finish your 6 years. So this is the greatest transformation that he, along with his channel, have undergone, and for the better in many ways. And that is the reason why he's able to show and showcase India in a way which no other channel has been able to, profess or show to the public. That is because I've been to several summits in the past 2-3 months, and it's content rich in many ways. I would not downplay those summits, but what I want to say is that the way the presentation is the most important thing. That is where Republic scores, not only on its prime time slots or throughout the day, but even otherwise when you talk about the way this summit is being presented today and tomorrow. Comparison wise, the other summits would start at 3 on the first day and end at 6 p.m. the other day. This summit started at 10 today. So there itself, that's that 4 hours headway or 5 hours headway. So this is where I think that the whole Republic network is working very, very comprehensively. I've gone through your schedule. It's absolutely fantastic. The way he's brought in the ministers, the key ministers, and of course to end with, the Prime Minister tomorrow at 8 p.m. in the evening. So that is something which I believe is the best way to, kind of close the summit. I've seen all the previous two, and this is no different in terms of its content, but this is richer. This is transformational for himself too, I believe, because he himself is, I can see him, he's totally preoccupied. He's thinking, I've still got 1.5 days left. Let me see what I can do best. Let me try to elicit the best answers from the best people. Because the biggest thing that he does as an anchor is that I wouldn't say, often people misuse the word provoke a person. I would say he motivates a person to think outside the box. Provoke has a negative connotation. So I believe that's the transformation.
And so, as a constitutional lawyer, we would love to have your opinion on this. That one of the most reaching debates, something that the youth has been engaged with for a long time. We have seen a sustained interest in this, which often doesn't happen in the kind of political apathy that we see very often in the youth today, is on the same-sex debate. Now, the centre has maintained, has had a very specific position on this. Various religious organizations have made their positions clear on this. The Supreme Court is weighing its arguments, although its observations seem that it is in contention in many ways with the central government. what would you think is the way to approach this question?
I think the Supreme Court knows that it's time for transformation. The same-sex debate is going to end up very positively for the people who belong to the gay community. There is going to be marriage allowed, and I can tell that to you for 100%. To err on the side of conservativeness, I would say 99.99%. But my initial thought is 100%. I was very confident about the right to privacy at the time when the privacy debate was going on, and I had said that all 9 judges will say that right to privacy is a fundamental right. The Puttaswamy judgment. Flowing from that, you then come down to a judgment which reads down Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code, allowing gay sex or decriminalizing it. Let's put it that way, to be more appropriate legally. Now, when you decriminalize it, you're allowing it. When you allow gay sex, the next step to people who are cohabiting together, just like a heterosexual couple, is if they want to solemnize their relationship into something like marriage, then if a heterosexual couple can get married, what is the harm in a homosexual couple getting married? If any contention, any argument on the fact that is put up by the center, that it is going to disrupt the cultural ethos of this country, we are not ready for it. There will be we'll have to tweak many laws. There will be a religious disruption, is absolutely bogus. Simply because when you argue a case before a court of law, you have to argue on the anvil of law. The fundamental rights, Article 14, which is equality, Article 19, which is freedom of association, and Article 21, which is, Article 19 has got many things, by the way, but freedom of association is one of them, and Article 21, which is right to life. All these 3 things put together, if you look at it from the prism of these 3, and that is exactly what the courts are going to look at from, the gay sex debate is going to end up in favor of gay couples. Because it is time that we acknowledge it. It was happening behind closed doors. We don't need to use the word anymore that they have come out of the closet. Not at all now in this country. We have to walk shoulder to shoulder with them. They have equal rights, just as you and I do. So the court has to set the tone for that, just as triple talaq judgment, privacy judgment, and decriminalization of adultery. All of those things, in some measure decriminalization of adultery, all of those things which have been set forth by the Supreme Court for the next 50, 100 years. What the Supreme Court is doing is it's looking at the next 50 to 100 years. And that is where it's allowing the people to enjoy the full panoply of the fundamental rights that they are imbued with by virtue of being citizens of this country. And one distinction that I must point out is that Article 21 talks about no person shall be deprived of right to life or personal liberty except by a due procedure established by law. That means no person, it's not using the word citizen there. That means any person, even if that person is not a citizen of this country, can argue on the basis of Article 21 that I am a gay person and I want to cohabit or marry a person with somebody who is a citizen. So the right to life is a broader concept than the other fundamental rights which apply only to citizens. So the thing is, or say Article 14 even applies, in many ways to, a full panoply of, full conspectus of people as such. So in my opinion, this debate is a very, very important debate. The Supreme Court is hearing the arguments, but the center's arguments about why do we have to borrow westernized culture? Aren't we speaking in English? Isn't that a Western language? Haven't we borrowed the parliamentary form of democracy? Isn't that part of the United Kingdom? Haven't we taken the fundamental rights? Isn't that part of the American Constitution of Bill of Rights? Emergency provisions in the Constitution, aren't they part of the Weimar Republic? The Third Reich of the German Constitution? So, and directive principles of state policy from the French Constitution. So what are we talking? We've aped the West. I mean, the whole Constitution as written as such is an admixture of several Western philosophies put together with our own added in it. So where there is, I mean, what are we talking? Aren't we wearing jeans today? Isn't that a Western concept? So to put up these arguments are absolutely baseless. I have absolutely not understood as to why the center is opposing this. What is the reason? Is it being thinking that, oh, if this comes through, then we'll have to tweak a lot many personal laws, and who's going to do that? Is it going to be a big thing? Yes, it's going to be a tremendous exercise, but I believe the legislature is more than equipped. The legislature ought to have laid down a law earlier. It did not, and that is why the reason the petitioners have approached the court. There are two ways that you form a law in this country. Once the legislature enacts a law, alternatively the judiciary, that is the Supreme Court, lays down the law by passing a ruling which under Article 141 of the Constitution is binding on all the people who live in this country. So to answer your question in a nutshell, I hope that tomorrow when Arnab takes up this with the two luminaries that are there as far as the legal point is concerned, they touch upon this. And I'm sure they can talk about it possibly much more than what I can. But I personally feel that this is something, and most importantly, apart from the gay debate, I would talk about uniform civil code. That is something which I talked to Arnab about 2 to 3 years ago as well. That you will notice that if there is a criminal code, which is a uniform criminal code, which is the Indian Penal Code, why isn't there a uniform civil code? Why are we having so many different laws when it comes to personal religion? Why there are so many personal laws? Unless and until you have a uniform civil code, you are going to see a disruptive tendency, and you will see riots, you will see skirmishes between different religions, and that is a bigger threat to democracy than anything else today. Because when you see all of these things, personal laws and all of them, they form out of certain religious background. So there is a theocracy. We are not a theocracy, we are not Iran. We are a democracy. And that is why, and mobocracy is the foot soldier of theocracy. So when there is a theocratic regime in any part of this country, you will see mobocracy, you will see gangsterism. And that is the biggest threat. So the faster the government comes out with the Uniform Civil Code, and that only the government can do. It is Article 44, which is a directive principle of state policy, and that is not mandatory, it's directory. So you can only talk passionately about it, you can ask the government, but the government has to come out with that faster. Otherwise, you will see a lot many more problems going down the road.